A very good afternoon, morning to everyone. I'm Jerrick, Assistant Director from ACE, the only national association for Singapore startups. And once again, a very warm welcome to all our friends and founders dialing in from Portugal, Singapore, and Southeast Asia. Pleasure to have you with us today. Co-sharing today's session, we are honored to have with us IES-INCA and there, Startup Lisbon, AICEP, Portugal Global, be part of this cross-country sharing session with us today. In case you're wondering, on behalf of all of us, you are now in the Forging Partnerships between Portugal's and Singapore Startup webinar.
Thank you, Jerrick. Now we would like to invite our friends from Portugal to welcome everybody and also share about the Portugal startup ecosystem and also about Startup Portugal. So may I invite Ms. Stephanie de Freitas to present.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Morning, morning from Portugal, everyone. Today I'm going to be showing a little bit about the Portuguese startup ecosystem. Okay, great. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are as Startup Portugal, what we do, and kind of our role within the startup ecosystem within the country. So Startup Portugal, we are an NGO or a think tank. We work very closely with the Ministry of Economy on the public side, as well as all the different actors within the startup ecosystem on the private side. So we work with investors, accelerators, incubators, founders, entrepreneurs, kind of business angels, everyone that's active in the ecosystem. Startup Portugal is able to partner and work alongside them. And then by doing that, we're able to identify the challenges and gaps within the ecosystem. And by being in the middle, we can communicate to the public side, specifically with the Ministry of Economy, all the different challenges that are present. And then the ministry and the government creates different policies and support programs to help combat those challenges. That's kind of the role that we play at the moment. So we're a bit of a middleman, but the entire objective is to help to grow and increase or enhance our startup ecosystem. So one of the ways that we do that, as I've mentioned, is working with all the different actors within the ecosystem. We really tried to build a strong community, a strong startup entrepreneurial community across the country. Ourselves as Startup Portugal, we're currently based in Lisbon, but we had our office at Porto, and we have a presence all across the country. So in 2016, the government created a specific strategy around building up the entrepreneurial system in Portugal. So they focus on building up the development and support opportunities for the actors within the ecosystem, providing funding, trying to internationalize our presence at more of a global level, being more competitive within the market. And we did this by focusing on our values, promoting our safety and quality of life, and as well as being an international hub and having very welcoming immigration policies. So these are just a few slides in terms of what makes us special as a startup ecosystem. So at Startup Portugal, we have these different initiatives that are currently active and present within our organization. So we have Deal Room. This is a platform that allows for all of the data and metrics around the startup ecosystem to be present. So you're able to go to our website. It's easy to find the Deal Room app. And you can kind of go on there and understand all the different metrics and what is the current ecosystem looking like, how many incubators or accelerators and startups do we have, what is the investment value for 2023 so far. Things like that can all be found on Deal Room. Then we have the National Network of Incubators. This is kind of our overall network of incubators that's present. We have different programs, visa access programs, voucher programs, allowing for funding opportunities for Portuguese and international startups. We have co-matching schemes funding that the government provides, and various other programs as well. We have Web Summit that everyone I'm sure is familiar with, that happens in Lisbon every year. And we do a Road to Web Summit, which is kind of a boot camp that helps to skill entrepreneurs to make the most of that opportunity in that event. And then we have the Business Abroad program, where we take Portuguese startups to other startup nations, startup hubs around the world, such as Canada, Israel, a few countries in Europe as well, that we try to grow our entrepreneurial experience and exposure at a national and international level. So this is just a slide to kind of demonstrate the different support programs and initiatives that are present alongside a startup's life cycle. So from pre-seed to steady stage, there's different governmental, private and governmental support programs that are available for startups. So then other areas that make us special as an ecosystem, we're rated the sixth one of the safest places in the world, according to the Global Peace Index. This definitely helps when people are looking at relocating a business or bringing their business from abroad. Just having this literal peace of mind is something that's really tangible for a lot of people and is a really strong indicator to bring a business over. We are also number 4 on the top expat destinations. So according to the Expat Insider in 2022, they ranked us around culture, safety, leisure, and our environment and climate. This all kind of just equals our quality of life as a country. We're a really easy place, a very welcoming and hospitable place for expats specifically to come in. And there's a really strong soft landing environment that we have within our ecosystem. So that's a really strong factor when entrepreneurs are looking at relocating to Portugal or starting a business in Portugal. Then one of our real flagship kind of factors is the attention that the government has placed on investment in education. We have a really competitive STEM system, specifically at the higher level of education and the university levels. Our STEM students are really sought after, and they tend to go abroad because there's a lot of competitive businesses and opportunities for them in that area, but we also really want to retain them at the same time. So our education system at a public level, not just at the private level, is really strong. Then in terms of connectivity, we have the 11th globally fastest fiber optic connectivity in the world. It's something that's all across the country. It's not just in the capital or in the key cities. So a lot of digital nomads kind of look at Portugal as a resting place as they kind of migrate, I suppose, around the world. And the nice thing about that is that you can work anywhere in Portugal. It doesn't have to be in any other major city. You can live on the periphery or towards the coast and still have access to internet and be able to work online. And then another reason that we're so special is around our location. So we are in a really good geostrategic position. We're in the closest European country to America and Africa. We have a really strong network across Europe. So we're a great gateway into Europe as well. And then we're in the same time zone as the UK and an hour apart from Central European time. So in terms of proximity to opportunities around Europe, Africa, and America, Portugal is really centrally placed. And this is just a snapshot in terms of the different brands and agencies and organizations that we've worked with over the years. So since we started in 2016, there's a variety of different people and organizations that we've been able to partner with and have shown a lot of impact. You can find all of our partners on our website as well as through Deal Room. So this is just like an overview in terms of the different organizations we've worked with. And then just a little bit in terms of incubators and accelerators. So Portugal, despite its size, has a very active incubation program and organizations. So we have over 160 incubators across Portugal, which is really, this is just showing you kind of the increase in demand in terms of our entrepreneurship drive in the country, that there is so many wonderful organizations that are able to provide a soft landing, coaching and mentorship, and provide internal and external funding for startups. So our entrepreneurial, our incubators and that programs around that are really strong in Portugal. This is just an example in terms of the success and importance of being involved in the incubation program. So for the first 12 to 24 months, your survival rate can vary between 86% to 90% survival rate going through an incubation program versus not being kind of an independent startup that hasn't had any support or mentorship during their life cycle. So it's been very positive. And then we also have a variety of startups and accelerators, exiting accelerators across Portugal. So Lisbon being the most popular, definitely. We have a very technology innovation sectoral presence within Lisbon, and that's got a lot of traction. But we also have strong incubation support across the rest of the country, specifically in the north and central Portugal. And it's just an example in terms of the entrepreneurial drive and growth that we've seen around investments and funding. So in 2018 to 2019, we saw a 250% increase in venture capital investment. Specifically, you can see from 2018 to 2019, we had a 100 billion leap in that 1 year. That, I think, really contributed to the presence of the Web Summit that year and the international attention that Portuguese startups and entrepreneurs had within that year. So that was a really successful year for Portugal. Then just a snapshot in terms of what private and investment funding is currently looking like. The average funding size in Portugal is 36 million, and we have over 11 companies that have funds of 100 million and above. So that is a really positive. Those are public and private companies that provide that support. We have 52 fund management companies that are active. And then between 2020 and 2021, we saw a 100% growth rate in investment in Portuguese startups. So this is also coming out of COVID. So it's just to kind of give a demonstration in terms of our entrepreneurial drive, of how investment hasn't necessarily slowed because of the impact of COVID and such. Then at an ecosystem level, we have over 100 million in funds raised for Portuguese startups, according to Deal Room. I'm sure it says 100 million, but it's definitely a lot more at this stage. We are the 12th ranked in the emerging ecosystem ranking, according to Startup Genome, and we're the 12th most innovative EU country, according to Innovation Scoreboard EU. And this has been reflected through our number of unicorns that Portugal's been able to produce. So we have 7 unicorns currently, and we have still quite a few actually up and coming. We have over 2,200 startups present in our ecosystem. And of these startups and actives that are present, they account for 1% of our GDP. So one thing that we're really proud of is the 7 unicorns that we have. They have contributed 18% of the GDP in 2020, considering the small size of our unicorns when you compare it to France or Germany. So France has 20 unicorns, they contributed 2%, and then Germany had 17 that contributed 1%, obviously a higher GDP, like money that's coming into the state was 45 billion and 49 billion. But it's a very close ranking when you're looking at only 7 unicorns in Portugal produced that 36 million. It's very competitive. And this is just an example in terms of the different priorities and new projects that Startup Portugal is currently working on. So we have a data and standards program. This allows for us to have a one-stop shop program, which is an online and in-person project. It provides free information to international entrepreneurs looking at relocating or starting a business in Portugal. And then you're able to have a one-on-one meeting with us, and we can talk to you in terms of a soft landing approach and the different partners and agencies that could support you in that. We've got new funds coming out. We have co-matching programs with startups and corporations, investors and universities. We're focusing on launching new international missions this year. We're really excited about that. Thank you. Like that COVID has kind of allowed everything to settle down and we can travel again. So we're really looking forward to getting that up and running again. And then we have Portugal at Web Summit 2.0, where we have one of the largest Portuguese stands, or even one of the largest stands actually, at Web Summit this year. So we're going to be looking towards that. And then you have ESNA, which is the European Startup Nation Alliance, which allows for a lot of European countries to provide a common and kind of a structured format around what the startup nation could look like in Europe, and how the European countries and the European Commission can work together to establish a really strong entrepreneurial drive around that. And that's about it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions also after the webinar, please feel free to email me, find me on LinkedIn, and we can chat that way as well.
Thank you, Stephanie, for the presentation. A very interesting view of how the Portugal market is developing, and a very interesting fact that the unicorns are contributing to a great part of the economy. That's amazing work done by them. Okay, we will continue with our program. We have next Mr. Pedro Teixeira from Startup Lisboa, who will be introducing on the Startup Lisboa soft landing and scale-up programs, and that will help you understand how you can land into Portugal through Lisboa. Mr. Pedro, please.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, thank you, Andy, for the part of the presentations. Like you said, like our objective and our main objective today is that we can interchange some connections between both ecosystems and try to help you scaling in that side as well, and opening some doors in terms of market connections in the different segments as well. So what we try and what we can help, feel free also to reach out. And I think Andy as well is available for it, and Jerrick and Benjamin, so for us to then chat a bit with the more concrete cases as well. I would like as well to show you like some presentation with briefly part of the overview of the programs that we have, not just for the part of the early stage, but also for the part of the later stage that we are supporting now. So basically, in terms of roadmap, Startup Lisboa started in 2012 with the ecosystem in that time being less mature than what it is today. But in the roadmap, we had a lot of growth since 2012 until 2022, and that's one of the main reasons why between 2012 and 2022 a lot of scale-ups started to appear as well. The Web Summit also brought a new vibe to the city and included a new ramp-up opportunity for the ecosystem in Portugal as well. And that's why we decided to create the second project of the Unicorn Factory Lisboa, focused on the scale-ups, on more mature startup ecosystem. Right. Yeah, basically, and deepening a little bit on both programs. So Startup Lisboa, like I said, started in 2012, focused not just in a specific segment. So we are industry agnostic, but tech-related incubation being our program, a program that is run and is built by like 4 different jury sessions per year. So we have like continuous applications of startups for the programs that we run, and from that side, the average incubation time that the startups tend to pass with us, it's like 2 years. It's a program open not just to Portuguese startups. It's not fixed that they have to be headquartered in Portugal. It's not fixed that they have to move to Portugal. So it has a virtual way for us to design it and to approach it. That allows all the startups to have the same value proposition by being incubated at Startup Lisboa, and some of them to have a room in our building at Flor da Prata in the city center for the ones that want it and that need it. This is like the 6 different things that our startups have access. So basically a network of different mentors, different perks and partners that they can talk to, funding matchmaking. So basically, as we don't invest on the startups, we don't take equity. So we charge a fee for the incubation that the startups have, really low. Like I said to you, we are private non-profit, but we are backed by the City Hall and created by the City Hall of Lisbon. So we continue with us with this mission to create and to go forward with helping the ecosystem to grow as well. So the values that we have involved are low, to not cut the legs to the founders when they are creating something. But as we don't invest, this is one of our value propositions, to have like the funding matchmaking and to introduce the different startups to different investors in the ecosystem. Then the part of the communication, so basically to amplify the job of the startups that we have incubated at Startup Lisboa, the physical space, like I said, for the ones that need it, and the community. So nowadays we have 150 startups incubated at Startup Lisboa, and the main thing that we want is to guarantee that they can share the knowledge, that they can share the things that they have inside of their startups to help each other. So we try to guarantee with different events, different initiatives, that they have this opportunity to be involved with each other and to grow by learning with the other startups that are incubated with us. For this, we have what we call the Rocket program. It's basically a 12 weeks program where the startups have like the first part of the entrepreneurship journey with different sessions that we think are the basis for them to develop their projects in a better way, and passes through product validation, design thinking, growth, sales, financial modeling. So different topics that the startups can have access to on a theoretical way for them to ramp up the first 12 weeks that they are incubated with us. So consider it like a mini acceleration program inside of the incubation program as a whole. These are some of the examples just to show you not the different success cases as a whole, but also the different industries that we work with. So Bounce is related to storage of luggage in terms of tourism, JS Scrambler, cybersecurity, Uniplaces is a booking rental platform, Codacy related to coding. So different success cases in different industries that we work with as well. In terms of the program, so this does not end in terms of the Startup Lisboa with the incubation program. What we have done and what we have understood is that we had a lot of requests also for people that wanted to move to Lisbon or to learn a little bit more about Lisbon, that have their decision made, that they want to do it, or are in the process of deciding between, okay, me as a personal person, as an individual person, I'm moving to Portugal, but I'm also not knowing if I will go to Portugal, I will go to Spain, I will go to France, so on and so on. So we created a program of 3 days for people to learn everything that they have to learn about the life in the city, about the business in Lisbon, how to do it, for the people to meet with law offices, with accountants, so with different players that can help them in establish in Lisbon as well. And also from Start to Table, an acceleration program, just to give you one of the examples related to food and beverage, where we work with some of the main companies in these segments as well. Then I would like also to pass a little bit through the program of Unicorn Factory Lisboa, that is now the part focus on the scaling up. So has Startup Lisboa its focus on the part of the incubation, Unicorn Factory Lisboa comes to give a new overview and to open this roadmap also in the part of the journey of a startup with the scaling up program and also the hubs network that I will also pass a little bit through. We felt that in like 2022, 2023, this will be the year for us to have like the scaling up and the soft landing program. The first part in the scaling up program is already running, the first cohort, and the soft landing program have continuous application that it will be basically a program where, and this is really applied for all of you, for startups that want to explore the Portuguese market. Again, not moving their headquarters to Portugal, not move definitely to in a concise way to Portugal, but to study the market and to understand if it would be an attractive market for your startup or scale up to enter in, and if you have the right connections and if your product services have the right fit for entering the market. And then 2023-24, the focus will be to drive new ideas and projects for these programs and also the hubs that I will enter in depth, and to have a startup campus in 2024-25 with a collaborative network of hubs spread throughout the city. But now let's deep dive a little bit on the scaling up part with the expansion. So basically, like I told you, the scaling up program, it's a program similar to the one that we have at Startup Lisboa, but focus on the early stage. So at Startup Lisboa, we try to turn individuals in entrepreneurs, and the focus of Startup Lisboa, of Unicorn Factory Lisboa, will be to turn these entrepreneurs into executives and give them a new, also a new perspective on the scaling up side of the startup that they have and of the project that they are developing. This will go, and just for you to have clear in mind, basically Startup Lisboa, it's focused on helping pre-seed and seed startups, and the Unicorn Factory Lisboa will be focused on the transition between the seed and the Series A process. So like we talked in the beginning, to ramp up the course of the startups. Just to give you an overview on how the program works, so it's built by 5 different pillars. One of them is the immersive upskilling, to give theoretical part for the founders, and training skills as well for the founders. The mentorship board, to have 3 dedicated mentors throughout the program that can work like an advisory board to help the startups the scale-ups in a specific way. The corporate matchmaking, so to facilitate the entrance between potential partners and customers that can work directly with the scale-ups. International growth, so it's one of the things that we were talking as well. So we have a network of different partners and a connection with different partners, and try to develop initiatives similar to the one that we are developing today as well, to open the market and the world to our scale-ups as well, and to make other scale-ups to see Portugal as an attractive market for them to explore as well. And that's one of the focus that we have, and a part of the community that is similar to the one that we have at Startup Lisboa. These are some of the partners that are involved in the project, as well as strategic partners or as program partners, and some of the VCs that are on board of the program as well. Like I told you, one of the main focus will not be to focus on the Portuguese market, because we want to open like the mindset of the scale-ups that we have on the project as well, and to help them expand to other markets, to other countries, and to facilitate their interactions with the different players in that country, as we do it as well here in Portugal. And no one is best than the incubators, accelerators that are inside of the country, and that can give them the expertise for that part. On the other hand, entering a little bit on the soft landing side, so basically a tailored program to help the international businesses to scale to Lisbon. So with different sessions, immersive sessions for you to get to know Portugal, curated networking for you to have the intros to different partners, different clients, different investors. We aim like to provide a solution that can help the different scale-ups to feel comfortable in Portugal, and to feel that they have the help that they need to establish their market relations in a better way, and they are not entering the market just by themselves without knowing it, and without having the help of a local people that can give them really good insights on that part as well. Then the administrative and legal help desk, so basically a legal support and administrative support with accountants, with law offices that we have partners with to support to set up operations in Lisbon in terms of the market, office space, or ready to move temporary space for the startups and scale-ups that are participating on a program, to have somewhere to work with as well, and don't be worried with like short-term rentals and so on in a new country. That is bureaucracy that the startups don't need in this type of the pace. And then the part of the access to local communities, so basically to develop relations and the network that can help them in that specific way. And just to end it a little bit, in terms, I will just enter a bit on the part of the hubs of innovation in the city as a whole, and finish it with it. One of the main focus here in Lisbon will be for us to develop different hubs and collaborate with different existing hubs to have a specific specialization in some specific segments that we are working with, and that we feel that the community is searching for. So trying to create some collaborative networks of hubs, where, for example, a gaming startup can cross a gaming fund in the same building, and can cross a gaming developer, an individual game developer in the same place. Some students that are interested in knowing the gaming companies as well. So to try to create and to aggregate the different players that are working to the same purpose and through the same purpose but nowadays are working like separately, and we want to try to merge this part of the community way. As you might understand, like Startup Lisboa and Unicorn Factory Lisboa are really focused on the part of the community and guaranteeing that the startups and scale-ups that we have here with us have the conditions to know the ecosystem and to know each other, and by that way to grow faster, that they then they would be able if they didn't have this network and these connections. So from my side, also available to help you and to clear out some doubts afterwards. But thank you, Andy. Passing to you.
Thank you, Pedro. That's a lot of activities happening there in Lisboa, and so many companies are helping. Okay, now we have heard quite a bit about Portugal, Lisboa, and the activities. We're gonna switch over to share about Singapore. So may I invite Jerrick from the Action Community for Entrepreneurship to share about what's happening in Singapore so our friends can learn and understand as well. Over to you, Jerrick. Yes.
Okay, I'll jump right into it. Not to bore you too much with the mission, but the vision definitely is the national voice for the Singapore startup ecosystem and the only national trade association for the startups. Much like the counterparts that we heard from the Portuguese friends, is doing similar but not exactly the same kind of work. So I'm going to take the next 10 minutes or so to walk you through. If we define the efforts that we put in to support our founders and startups, we vaguely define them into these three areas. The avenues for company market expansion, the accelerated core innovations for enablers, and also the access hubs for connected ecosystem. We'll see a little bit more about that in the next few slides. A little bit of a context and overview of our startup ecosystem. We have more than 4,000 startups, more than 1,000 investors, and we counted around USD 9 billion in the entire funding pool in Singapore. Could be more than that. These are figures from last year. And around 220 incubators and accelerators, and hovering at actually about 28 unicorns. The icons you see on the right side of the screen are some of the unicorns that are in the ecosystem, and also based in where we are situated in the launchpad. A little bit more on the startup ecosystem ranking that we have. Regionally, we are ranked #1 in South Asia, and globally, we are climbing to #7 and hopefully more. And we do see ourselves as one of the leading hub or the gateway for Southeast Asia. So we encourage and we want to recommend for startups that wants to land and expand in Southeast Asia to come to Singapore, where you get easy access, right? And the ease of setting up company in Singapore before you expand over to the region. Some of the keywords and what Singapore is known as for the Asian norm for technology, innovation, and enterprise. We are set up to be one of the easiest places to do business in the world. We have a lot of IPs with good IP rights protection, legality, and we're actually one of the top Southeast Asia ecosystem as well. On top of that, the upcoming startups we hope to be the next wave of unicorns that's supported by ACE are some of these startups that you can see here. And what ACE does is definitely defined by 5 key pillars, starting from the centerpiece of everything else, the startups. We support the startups and work through the network of our partners, much like IES-INCA and our regional international partners as well, to provide the support for the startups through various initiatives that I'll kind of show you in the next few slides. One of the key programs that we do to encourage entrepreneurship in Singapore is our flagship program, Basecamp. The program is designed for early stage startups to provide them with key insights, the best practices, and the capability to grow through a structured program and also mentoring as well. If you look at the map founder journey with ACE, and where ACE supports any early stage startups or day one founders, we'll practically guide you through your journey through around Series A and beyond. And it all starts from you joining our Basecamp and then attending the Basecamp and then setting up your startups, incorporating here. And thereafter, we have the booster program that helps you assess talents, assess the market, and assess deep tech. And some of these are worked through our partners and the ecosystem enablers around the region as well. And last but not least, if you're looking to fundraise, so we have a series of programs that helps you fundraising in Singapore locally and also regionally as well. The next key pillar that we do work with are the corporates. The corporates are a key stakeholders in our ecosystem. And this covers the icons that you see here are some of the corporates that we work with, and there are more that is not shown in the slides. And these are some examples of the engagement we have to corporates. So working with corporates as the demand driver for our ecosystem, the corporates allow access to some of our events, networking events, and all the workshops and panel discussion, and also market opportunities for our startups. So as the early stage startups, it's probably harder for them to access to the corporates and have conversation with them. So ACE mission is really to consolidate and provide the opportunity for the access towards the corporates. Thereafter, we look into a collaborative mode there. We curate startups with their solutions, and we match them together with our corporates, looking into some of their needs and their innovation challenges, right, to engage them. And last but not least, there are a series of co-innovation programs that we work through our ecosystem partners, again, with the likes of IES-INCA, that helps to combine both supplies, the incubators coming from our partners, with the demands, the corporates that's working with ACE, and put them together, putting in the conversations that allows the startups to have the very early stage, either validation and access and conversation that helps them in adopting a technology, find the first customer, or even investing in them. The next pillar that we do work in are the Institute of Higher Learning. This covers the universities, the polytechnics, and the vocational institutes in Singapore. And we believe here that the entrepreneurship journey will start as a youth, and we want to support them as they are studying right until they become a startup founders. That is, they're part of our community and our ecosystem. Next is risk capital, which is the investors, the VCs, and family offices that's in our ecosystem. Some of the investors and VCs that we work with can be seen here. A lot of them are kind of earlier stage up to Series A kind of investors that we do work very closely with. And the last but not least, the public sector, where ACE acts as a bridge and advocates towards the government agencies and our startups, where we then help to understand the challenges with the startups and the relevant policies and updates that we could provide for them. So this will cover conversation with the ministers, the various government agencies, and framework and regularies as well. So in a nutshell, our flagship program covers these few areas: pitching, mentorship, networking, fundraising, corporate innovation, market access, and feedback sessions. And we have an international program that we help to land international startups into our ecosystem. This is a one-week market immersion program created for startups trying to gain insights into our ecosystem and land here, incorporate here in Singapore. Before we get there, there is often market insight sessions such as this one, where we help startups in either countries that are interested to come here or go over to our counterpart, learn more about the opportunities in the market, and then decide if that is the market they want to expand into. And on top of that, we have the international business matching that was covered a little bit in the earlier slides, and also the regional Meet the Investors program that we provide a curated approach for our startups to meet the investors through the Meet the VC program. We are operating through partners around 17 countries and growing. We look forward to have projects and some of the other areas back into this slide so that we can expand our partnership. And we also want to support the startups with a Global Ready Talent program that it has 70% funding support from the government. This helps with early stage startups to onboard interns that is covered by 70% funding to get them to help them with the manpower costs and also in finding the right talent for the startups. That's the last part of my slides, and if you'd like to connect with ACE, this is the QR code that you can scan and our social media handles. And I would like to pass the time back to Andy. Andy, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jerrick, for that great overview of the Singapore ecosystem. Now I will share with the participants here about the activities that IES-INCA undertakes. Yep, so let me just share my slides. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I was fortunate to attend this sharing by Maria and the her counterpart teams, and also get to meet the ambassador for Portugal at the event organized by Enterprise Singapore. And that's where we discovered many of the interesting things and common ground that we have between two nations, Singapore and Portugal. Yeah. Okay, so let me introduce, for those who are not aware, about our organization. We are the extension of the Institution of Engineers Singapore, IES. So IES is a national body for engineers and it's been around since 1966. Our work is really to advance and promote the science, art, and profession of engineering that really is for the good of mankind. And IES itself is the national body and heart and voice for engineers in Singapore. And any engineers with a diploma or degree are welcome to join us as a member of IES to grow the future of engineering. Okay, so just to show you some of the engineers we have here, we have engineers in our council of different disciplines, and also engineers of different sectors, from the government to the private sector and also academia. So all these engineers in this council, they serve the engineering community to drive the growth of engineering. Okay. From IES, let me extend into IES-INCA, which is my organization. Our role is to really help the companies, the entrepreneurs, the mentors, and the investors to connect and to build successful and sustainable technology ventures. So IES-INCA stands for Incubator Accelerator. Okay. So that's our mission, to really help these ventures accelerate their products to market and to achieve success. And in doing so, we hope that we can have a very vibrant engineering venture community and really transform life through innovation and technology. We started in 2019, and right now we have supported 23 incubatees. 10 are still active with us. We have 80 plus mentors that help to guide our teams, and we have a network of 150 plus investors and about 950 plus in the community, where we regularly update them on our activities and engage them in our programs as well. Okay, so during the years of the pandemic, we went from physical events to online events, and continue to share on the development of various team topics, as well as developing into new markets, as well as sharing technopreneur stories to help inspire our engineers who want to start their own company to learn from the lessons of others. So we have a YouTube channel you can watch to recap some of the past recordings, as well as this one in the future. Okay, our USP is that we are linked to the largest engineering network in Singapore, IES, and that's where we have the links into the academic and industry circles. And being recognized as the national body for engineers, we are able to drive this new economy, new opportunities in technology commercialization. And we hope to harness and incentivize engineering talent that wants to build their own companies to build strategic technologies, products and services that our country needs. And lastly, we serve as the hub for all engineering-related new ventures, linking the universities, the polytechnics, the research institutes, and industry, so that we keep the conversation going for the growth of the technology companies. On an end-to-end view, as an incubator, we look out for engineers, IES members, corporate SME spin-offs, and also IHL spin-offs, the university, polytechnic spin-offs. We guide them in their scale-up journey, where they need engineering translation support, mentorship, and also business support training, linking them to investors, business networks, and also custom markets like Portugal, like the rest of the world. Yeah, okay. And on top of that, we also look out for corporate SME problem statements, industry problem statements, and also innovation opportunities, where engineers who have domain knowledge and looking to start a new business may find that some of the problem statements are something they like to solve and contribute to the industry growth. So those are what we do on our platform. We provide the information flow so that those who want to start their business can do so. Okay, the focus areas for us is infrastructure technology, building related materials, processes and facilities management, IoT for industrial purpose and smart cities, robotics automation, clean tech sustainability. These are areas where we are looking for companies who are trying to scale up and support them on their journey. Okay. These are some of our partners, Enterprise Singapore, IPI, A-Star, and the universities, some funds and associations that we work with. And we don't have a fund ourselves, but we work with the angel investors, the VCs, and corporate investors that have pledged a fund to their funds to invest into the company. So if you are an investor, you are welcome to join us on this mailing list. So we'll invite you to our pitch day. For 2023, we are expanding our focus from just incubation acceleration into corporate innovation as well. We want to support engineering and technology SMEs, large local enterprises, MNCs, listed companies in their innovation journey to achieve greater business results and commercialize more technology. In addition, we are also looking at overseas expansion. We want to help our companies go to bigger markets to bring their technology to new markets, and some of these areas are like Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, USA, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, China, and Europe. So we will be working closely with ACE, who has a lot of these lending programs and partners as well. So feel free to contact me. Do follow our LinkedIn and Facebook pages for updates on the activities on our end. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Yep. Okay. So that's all I have to share about IES-INCA. Our work is to really support engineers in their tech commercialization journey, and look forward to connecting with the engineers in Portugal, definitely, who also has a great emphasis from engineering fields. Okay. So now we will have a segment where we will introduce our founders from Singapore and Portugal for them to share about a bit about their work in Portugal and Singapore respectively. But maybe before we do that, I wanted to do a picture capture of our audience before some of you run off. So maybe I just invite all of you to open your camera for like maybe 10 seconds. You know, whoever is comfortable, just in a safe place, open your camera. We just take a picture of this international crowd from all over the world. Yeah. Okay. Okay, right. Okay. Great. Okay, yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, on the count of 3, yeah. Smile at the camera. Okay. Okay, anybody else? Okay, last call. All right. Okay. Okay, smile at the camera. 3, 2, 1. Okay, got that. Okay. All right. Okay, now I would like to, maybe we will start off with our friend from the Portugal side. We have Mr. Carlos Sequeira from Neurospace. He's the head of business development there in the space tech, helping to keep the satellites moving in the right space. Yeah. Okay. We wanted to have this segment to hear from the ground. They said we are all promoting the ecosystem, but on the ground, how is it like being a startup founder and running your business there? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andy, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone. So just let me check here.
Yeah, you can see your slides.
Okay, cool. So Carlos Sequeira from Neurospace Portugal. Well, from Portugal to the world, I want to share a little bit about our company, but mainly our experience, how from Portugal, actually from Coimbra and Lisbon, we were able to set up a startup that, as you can know, in space can only have a global market and global customers. $1 trillion is what is the forecast for the space economy. It's already worth a lot today, but in 2040, Morgan Stanley points out this figure for the space economy. This is not only research and things that happen out there. Most of this money, it's actually right now business that are done on Earth. So if you pick your cell phone or if you drive in your car, probably mostly you'll be using today space technology. But in the future, we'll have much more things that look a bit like science fiction today, you know, like factories in space, but they are becoming less of science fiction and more of reality. Or things like, for instance, mining asteroids. There are a lot of rare metals that are crucial today for electric batteries for cars or for things to do cell phones. And I think in principle, it's a better idea to take them from space than to take them from Earth and keep our Earth more sustainable while we reach, you know, new places to explore new business. But there are some troubles in this path to the $1 trillion economy. And one is the so-called space debris. So literally human-made trash in space that is a danger to the assets that are out there, mainly satellites, and also a danger for the humans who are in space. There was no space debris when Sputnik was launched, because it was the first satellite being launched by humankind. But if you look at the figures here, today we have 6,000 satellites, and in 2030 we'll have probably even more than 100,000 satellites. If you look at the news with Starlink, with Amazon Kuiper, with OneWeb, I mean, the launching plans for these companies are huge. Now, this is a good thing because the technology is helping humankind to do a lot of things. If you look at, for instance, the fight against climate change can only be done today, or it can be done better with the space technology for the Earth observation. But it also causes that problem of space debris. So there are a lot of objects in space, 30,000 objects, more than 10 centimeters, a lot smaller. But the trouble with this, it's a bit like, you know, plastics in the ocean. But the trouble with these objects is that they do not stand still. They travel at 25,000 kilometers per hour. So, you know, if an object of this size hits a satellite at 25,000 satellite, I mean, the satellite is gone. So there's real trouble here. That's where we come in. You use artificial intelligence to prevent this type of situation. So in one hand, to alert the satellite operators if something is coming into their direction, and in the other hand, to advise on the best possible maneuver. So I'm not going to go into deep detail, but imagine that you have 10 satellites or something, you manage your assets in space, and we warn you with the color code. Red, of course, is troubles. So here it's a satellite, an active satellite that it's coming to the direction with our asset, and we're telling them they have to maneuver in 6 days. Of course, from the business point of side, this means we help satellite operators to save time, to save money, and to perform a better operation. In the end, of course, that's what they want, and that's why they use our solution. We are a team of 23 right now. We were born in 2021, but mostly 2022 was the year of our operation. And that's now where I wanted to take, let's say, a little bit more time to explain the things that we have done and how they were possible to be done from Portugal to the world. So we released our first product in July 2022. So the first year was contacting potential customers, and there is one satellite operator in Portugal. It's our customer, but you cannot make a company for a market of one company, right? Of course, you have to go to other countries. So our main customers are in Europe, Asia, North and South America, Africa, Middle East, so in lots of places. We are able to raise 2.5 million euros from a Portuguese VC in like 1 year ago. And that was very important because it allowed us, to grow the team, actually to deliver the first version of our product. We are also able to raise, this is grants, 25 million euros from the EU Next Gen funding, so the European plan for the recovery of the economy due to COVID. Now, I have here to give a sort of a disclaimer. 25 million euros, it's a bit of an outlier for a startup to get this sort of funding, okay? It was very good that we got it. Normally, the numbers for startups are a little bit lower. But nevertheless, there is lots of opportunities for startups to raise this kind of money to help their growth. We have 2 contracts with the European Space Agency, and we have 7 pilot customers right now from all over the world. I mean, one is Portuguese, but the others are Europeans, North America, and Middle East that have almost 400 satellites in their assets. Now, a bit on the, let's say, what can you expect from Portugal? What were the things that we were able to get? And any company that comes to the Portuguese ecosystem, and I should say here, as you know, Portugal is part of the European Union. So when I say Portugal, I mean, one has to understand Portugal and the rest of the Europe, because on the Schengen place, I mean, you can travel without a passport, you can do business with not too much barrier. So think of Portugal plus, let's say, the rest of the European countries. We also heard from the presentation of the Singapore ecosystem, there are a lot of anchor customers and big companies that have open innovation or corporate innovation programs that are very useful for startups. You can get them in Portugal and you can get them in other countries. These companies are very open to work with startups, mostly because they need to. I mean, if they want to keep up the pace of innovation, they just have no other option. So they are eager to work with startups. We were able to hire a lot of the faces you saw there, young faces, you know, bright young students from the Portuguese universities, but also from the Technical University of Munich. We have also interns from the Delft University in the Netherlands. So there is really a talent market out there, and especially being, you know, nowadays that you can be a sort of hybrid remote and non-remote company. We are a purely remote company. We have office in Startup Lisboa and also here in Coimbra, where I'm sitting, but we work from home. You saw the fundings we got. So you can get grants for seed just to launch your company. You can get grants for R&D, you know, to develop your product together with universities and research institutes. And you can get, that's what we got, funding just to grow your business. There is VC money. Armilar is a Portuguese VC, but they work with companies from all over the world. They invest in Australia, they invest in Asia, they invest in the Americas, and of course in Europe and in Portugal. And probably the most important, let's say, message here, and a nod to Pedro from Startup Lisboa, but also from other incubators in Lisbon, probably helping hand at the beginning will be very useful. The system, it's good, but sometimes it's not the most easiest things to navigate. There are, you know, there are a learning curve like everywhere. And incubators and accelerators are there to support you. So if you come to Portugal, I mean, use them. They are there for the usefulness of the startups. From our side, when we plan to move to the Asia markets, of course, we'll use the programs that are there in Singapore. We've already been in touch with the people here, and we are very glad to work with them and to be there with the support of, let's say, local knowledge, which in the end are the people who know best about the stuff. So that, I think, is a very useful tool that one should use when launching into new markets. So thank you for your attention, and I'm here to ask any question on the chat if you want to know more about something.
Thank you, Carlos. Great work in keeping the hundreds of thousands of satellites in
Out
place and not get their millions destroyed. Okay, we are glad to have Dr. Michael Armando. He's from Ocean Pixel, a tech company in Singapore, and he's into renewable energy. So let me get him to share a bit. Yeah, over to you, Michael.
Yep. Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. It's now 6:30 p.m. in this part of the world. I'm just checking if you could hear me. And I think, Andy, you were supposed to share some slides. So our company looks at enabling sustainability through data intelligence. And we started off as a spin-off of Nanyang Technological University already 8 years ago now. think 2014, and the area that we work on is on sustainability. And we have been busy looking at both marine renewables and the wider blue economy, being that we come from sustainability and energy engineering, and looking at all these solutions as researchers back then. And now we had to grow the company to look at Southeast Asia focused support service provider. And we tally ourselves with the sustainable development goals. These transformations that are happening now, they are each of them big markets, but there is a secret transformation happening that helps the other 5, which is the 6th one, looking at digital revolution for sustainable development. Data and tools, digital tools, has accelerated much of the interventions happening globally. And we as Ocean Pixel, although we pride ourselves of looking at the pilot deployments for tidal and wave, and we even have an MOU with WAVEC, or the Wave Energy Center in Portugal. We do see that technology providers want to come into the region to look at deploying more and more of these clean energy solutions. Beyond that, the blue economy is quite a big market, and the ocean economy right now is between 3 to 6 trillion US dollars. And just looking at blue carbon assets in Southeast Asia, that's already a 681 billion market. 17% of that is in the Philippines. I am currently right now in the Philippines, and just to show you that there is a linkage between Portugal and this part of the world. My surname, Abundo, is a very Portuguese one, and I can trace my roots back to Portuguese background. So, but I do not speak Spanish. I only know a little bit, but for my colleague, I think I only can say Kegway, Kegway. So, with Ocean Pixel, we have looked at the ecosystem in Singapore as very strong, not only in terms of innovation and obviously some funding routes, but also in terms of customers, because regionally Singapore is seen as the HQ base for a lot of companies that want to go into the wider Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific region. Singapore has been, although a small country in the region, it is the first one to have been classified as a developed country in the region. So many folks set up their HQ in Southeast Asia, and those obviously from Europe or the Americas, they use Singapore as a jump-off base going to China and North Asia and the wider sort of Asia Pacific. So I think I'm going to stop with the slides on the blue economy here, Andy, if that's okay. We don't need to go to too much detail, but I'd love to answer some questions about what it means for a technopreneur to sort of grow a company out in Singapore, and what that means also in terms of support, etc. There are co-investment mechanisms that Singapore government has. You bring in $3, they can match it with $7. So that ratio is particularly aggressive, I think. And typically the growth of the Southeast Asian market and the wider Asia Pacific is probably one of the fastest growing regions in the world. And one of the key things there is because of a good sort of steady population growth as well, which obviously is coupled to a lot of economic development. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for that sharing. Yep. And we will move on to the next segment, where we have a panel of our Singapore and also Portugal friends to answer any questions you might have. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat or raise your hand and you can ask them directly to our panelists. So we have from the Portugal side, we'll have, let me see, okay. From the Portugal side, we'll have Pedro Teixeira from Startup Lisboa. We'll have Maria Liu from AICEP Portugal. Global Trade and Investment Agency. We have Jerrick from ACE and myself to answer questions, and certainly Stephanie, Carlos and Michael can add on to that as well if there's any questions on the ecosystem. Okay, so yeah, feel free to ask. Anybody has any questions? If not, I will have to ask some questions. But I love you guys to ask the questions because I have asked many questions about Portugal and I still find it a very amazing place. Yeah. Okay, anybody?
Andy, there's one question from Jerry Huang. I think it's to Stephanie.
Okay, yes, Jerry asked the question. Let me see.
What was the question?
Yeah, so are most of the startups located within Lisbon or where else? I think just now Pedro did address that. How does it work? Why do people pick this place or that place? Maybe Pedro can expand on that point. Yeah.
Go for it, Stephanie. In terms, I think you have a better overview in the different cities and so on and so on, because we have a lot of cool options here in Portugal. Braga, Madeira are really good ecosystems as well. But go deeper, Stephanie, please.
Yeah, definitely. So Lisbon is definitely the most popular in terms of startups starting a business, but it depends on the industry. So the nice thing about Portugal is we are very varied in terms of our achievements and talents. So a lot of the startups are relocating or starting a business in Lisbon is around technology and innovation. If you're very interested in tourism, we find that the Algarve is really popular for startups as well as businesses in terms of wellness and that kind of area, focusing around tourism. Then if you look to the north and central Portugal, so central Portugal is a lot of startups that focus around research and development. We have a really strong academic institution in Coimbra. So there's a lot of interest around that area in central Portugal. And then to the north of Portugal, it's our main export and import hub. So as well as very cultural, creative and arty. So there's a lot of that kind of dynamics in the north. So it literally comes down to what area are you working in and what opportunities are available. And then we kind of divide it informally based on those kind of areas.
So maybe I will ask for engineering, where should we go?
Depends on you. It can be cross-pollinated across the different areas.
Okay.
But if you're looking at research and development. Yes, Marianne.
If I may add, because our universities are extremely good and they are a bit spread throughout the country, depends on the engineering field, because even engineering has different fields. Most of these universities work closely with the industry and with incubators and accelerators. So it depends very much in what part of engineering you are going into Portugal, but definitely we are not short of talent. So it will be really easy in terms of on the engineering side to find a place for you, even because 60% more or less of our graduates are from the science stream.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, we have another question from Adam. Adam is asking for visas for startups arriving in Portugal. Any inputs for them? Is it easy to get? How long does it take? Does it cost a lot? Yeah.
Yeah, so we promote a visa called the Startup Visa. This is catering around international entrepreneurs who don't have, obviously, any passport. So this is also associated with an incubation voucher. So it provides a soft landing support program. The incubator is actually the one that helps to kind of approve the visa, I suppose, or the program. And then we work with a partner called YAPME who owns this initiative. And then they'll also be helping as a support to bring the visa forward. But it's meant to be an expedited visa. So it should be a short-term visa in terms of how long it takes. And then it's a residency visa as well. So it allows you to live and work within the country, and then you just renew it annually.
Is the criteria very hard to get? I mean, is it stated in some website where we can read and
so it's all on it's all on the Startup Portugal website and on YAPME's website. You'll find it under the Startup Visa area. In terms of criteria, it's not too difficult. You do need to be in the technology or innovation industry to apply. And then you need to have your kind of business plan ready, the budget over the next, the perceived budget for the first 5 years, whether you can create a turnover of over 325,000 euros within those 5 years. And it's all pretty much is working towards milestones. And then once you get the approval and to work with the incubator, they'll help you reach those different milestones.
Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have another question. I think it's asking along the lines of collaboration and business matching for commercialization of technology in Portugal. Is there some kind of program for matching, or is it pretty much within the programs that are existing there?
Yeah, to me in the side of the incubators, and then you can go, Maria. Sorry, I think you were talking, but then on the part of the incubators and accelerators that you have in Portugal, you have it included as well as some of the perks that we have. And then IESEP has a really good relation as well with the ecosystem and the corporate ecosystem in Portugal that does a lot of the work in that side as well. But in that side, Maria, go deeper, please.
We encourage companies to invest in Portugal, and in that sense that once they open an office in Portugal, of course, IESEP and even IAPME and other institutions in Portugal that may be more dedicated to that sort of size of company are able to assist, of course.
Right.
But in any case, in Singapore and Malaysia, we are here actually to guide all the companies that wish to explore Portugal. We will provide the information that will allow them at least to create the connections like with Startup Portugal, Startup Lisboa, and other incubators.
Okay. If we want to find an accelerator or incubator to work with, how would one go about doing that? Yeah.
It's not difficult. IAPME site will have all the incubators that are approved by them. I presume on Startup Portugal, they will have that information as well, even on Startup Lisboa.
Okay, right. Okay, I think enough of visas. Maybe we ask a different question on sustainability. Devon wants to know how committed, well, this is a very heavy question. How committed is the Portugal government to promoting a zero emission lifestyle? Okay, that's a very big question, but
if I can,
yes, go ahead.
It's very easy. It's extremely committed. 60% of our electricity is already generated from energy sources, and that commitment with sustainability and renewable energy started in the early 2000s. So when you go for agriculture, when you go for any sector in Portugal, even in terms of mobility, all this is taken in consideration because of climate change, but because we are aware of the consequences that we all face and that we all need to act together. So Portugal is extremely committed in terms of sustainability.
Is there a target in the years ahead? I mean, you're already at 60%. Are you going to 70, 80, 90?
Yes, always growing, always growing. Our target will be to be net zero by 2050. But I do believe that with all the effort that all entities and all companies and every individuals are making in Portugal, starting from the collection of garbage at home. We separate the garbage at home. We have different containers where to put. The city council will collect different garbage on different days. So it's that sort of commitment. It's not only the government, but the people in Portugal. So I do believe we will reach net zero before that time.
Great, great. I think that's a great model for renewable energy and sustainability. Okay, do we have any more questions from the audience? Anybody like to ask about Singapore?
Yeah, in that sense, if I may, also the commitment of Singapore towards sustainability, because I read that Singapore is really going into taking sustainability as in consideration. And in that sense, I believe there's a lot to share between Portugal and Singapore. So if you could enlighten us on that part, is highly appreciated.
Yes, Singapore has a green plan, and it's being rolled out across from the government to the industries, and even ourselves as the institutional engineers in Singapore, we also have created our green plan to help to support the sustainability agenda. So it's a very big plan, so we can certainly share some links so that we can share notes, even though we are quite far apart in terms of the distance, but facing the sea, we all are threatened by the rising seawater, so we have a common goal to stay afloat.
Yeah, and the sea can connect us, so no problem, the sea and the skies.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So our green plan is what we are taking forward in our Singapore, right?
Yeah, and if you see even companies like Neurospace, in a way, take care of the sustainability of our planet. They all have that in mind. It's not only the government, but the companies.
Indeed, indeed. Okay. Carlos wants to know what is the best innovation and startup event in Singapore. Maybe I'll just get Jerrick to answer that question.
I'll put it this way. I think there are a lot of big events in terms of innovation startups events in Singapore. Clearly, one of the bigger ones that we do have here is Slingshot as one of the signature events here, also sponsored by our government. So we can encourage the Slingshot is a startup series of innovation week and all that's leading up to Switch. That's also one of the biggest in Singapore. That might be the great period of time for you to explore coming into Singapore and seeing if we are the area for you to set up. So I can't quite define where's the best one. And if I'm biased, I'll probably say that we have some of the better ones, which probably may or may not be true. Yeah, but I'm happy to share some of those details here in the chat group in a bit. And you can see if those are the dates that collide with where you want to come over to Singapore as well.
Okay, I think on that note, I invite Jerrick to kind of say a closing address to everybody. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Andy. So a quick closing there. If you have any questions we didn't get to answer, we apologize for the lack of time. But do contact us via email. I believe that we will send out a link towards each of you who have attended for the webinar recording after today's event. And through that, you could write to us. Do us a favor, direct or address the question towards the organization you would like to speak to for ease of follow-up. In the example, you can say, hey, I would like to know this and that about Singapore or Portugal. Let us know, right? Otherwise, thank you very much for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you soon again and have a great morning or evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
and have Pedro do his part of the ending. Yeah, Pedro, please.
From our side, just thank you as well for participating, and hope if one interconnection can be made between both ecosystems, will be awesome. So hope it helped.
Thank you, Pedro.
Definitely.
So thank you everybody for being here.